It's Iowa Prairie Girl, and I am gearing up for National Prairie Day. Yep, I just found out that National Prairie Day is the first Saturday in June. Prairie Day started in 2016, so I'm not too far behind. So the Missouri Prairie Foundation decided to declare that the first Saturday in June is National Prairie Day in honor and recognition and education purposes for the prairie. So Prairie Dog and I, if you can hear her crying, she's right next to me, she thinks we better get walking. We are at one of our most favorite places. We are at the Rock Falls Prairie in Rock Falls, Iowa, Saragota County, the Wilkinson Park. And so we're going to take you out on our prairie today, and it's a beautiful evening. We are on the covered bridge. I want to show that off just a little bit here. And as we turn around here, a little graffiti, you can see that we can head down to the prairie. Now, I want to say a couple things about the Rock Falls Park here. It is very handicap accessible for a prairie. It is easy access. You can see there's a road that covers the whole east side of the prairie, and then on the west side the trail is a grassy mowed trail. So very easy access for a lot of people. You can even just have someone drive by in their car, or you could even push a wheelchair on this road here. So it's a neat prairie for everyone to visit. You got this really neat covered bridge that kids love to explore, and if you can hear, there's a creek that runs down into the Shell Rock River, and so you can even bring kids to the prairie here, and they'll have other things to keep them occupied with. So a really neat place to come to. There's also a campground nearby, or within the park, and that they have some really clean bathrooms. So a lot of amenities for anybody that wants to visit this park. Here comes Prairie. She's ready to get moving. So, as I said, this is Prairie Dog and one of our most favorite places. She is just elated to be here this evening. So if you hang on, we're going to head down to the prairie. So here we are in the prairie, and you can see by the sign there that this is a native prairie, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of this park in a minute. But right now I just want to talk about why our prairie is so important. Right now, if you can really see in the background here, the prairie is covered with some yellow flowers, and those are golden Alexander, and that's a springtime flower that often gets mistaken for wild parsnip. Golden Alexander is just a beautiful little yellow flower. But let's talk a little bit about the prairies. 150 years ago, the Great Plains were 170 million acres of prairie, and now we've reduced that down. In the last 150 years, we've reduced that down to 1% of that 170 million acres. I've mentioned earlier that Iowa used to be 85% covered with prairie. Someone coming down on the road. So Iowa used to be covered with 85% of Iowa was covered with prairie, and that is down to 0.1% of prairie is left. So why is a prairie important? Well, prairies can absorb up to 7 inches of rain, and just the prairie alone. Their roots are 15 feet deep. So that prairie is drought resistant. A prairie does not require pesticides or herbicides or any kind of fertilizer. It's a wonderful water filtration device, and so it cleans the water, it prevents runoff, it prevents erosion, it can reduce flooding, and so that's just one awesome reason why a prairie is so important. I'm going to talk a little bit later about all the animals and the plants that are in the prairie. So we'll move on to a different location here, and I want to show you a particular plant that grows here at Wilkinson Park. There's a pheasant. I'm going to talk about birds in a minute. So Jack Sanders in his book described wildflower preserves as a place that, let me read it for you. Some flowers have become so rare that they are hardly ever found outside the special wildflower preserves, and he calls them the zoos of the plant world. And I can attest to that here at Wilkinson Park. Last spring, I was got to be part of a team that documented the small white lady slipper was found here at Wilkinson Park and had never been recorded here before. So that was a really neat experience for me. So I could go on and list to you the flowers that grow here at Wilkinson Park. The one that I'm next to right now, yes, I am on my knee, but this is a purple stem angelica, and it is about, I don't know, 3 feet tall now. But this is one of the tallest wildflowers in Iowa. It will be 9 feet tall in a couple of weeks. So this is a purple angelica. Other flowers that grow here at Wilkinson Park, I could go on and on. I'm going to include a few pictures right now. You know, it's June, so we don't have a lot of things, but we have, what do we have? We have some grasses that are blooming, yellow star grass, wild strawberries. There are Dame's rockets here, which is an invasive plant, but doesn't offend too many people. Some prairie smoke, hoary cocoon is blooming, just a lot of things that will bloom here at Wilkinson Park. But later this summer, this prairie will be covered with blazing star. The blazing star really attracts the butterflies, and so that's another benefit of a wild preserve or a prairie or the grassland, is that the butterflies and the other insects really benefit from having these forbs or these flowers having a place to grow. I can tell you that if you were to come here at the end of July, beginning of August, when the blazing stars are blooming, and it's rough blazing star that blooms here, the tops of those blazing stars, if you just stand in one place, chances are you could have 1 to 2 dozen butterflies floating around your head. Comes a car, and I have to make sure Prairie Dog doesn't get run over. So that's another benefit of the prairie, is that they are the zoo land for these wildflowers. If we didn't have these prairies, some of these flowers would be extinct, and so I just love to come out and look at the different prairies, or the different flowers that grow in the prairie. Another benefit of having this grassland and these areas are for animals, and last year Prairie Dog and I were here almost every week, and there was a mother hen turkey that had a nest here, and we got to see her every week. There's pheasants growing, living here. And actually at Wilkinson Park, you're going to see more than just your common birds. At Wilkinson Park, at any time, if you come through the summertime, chances are you're going to see a rose-breasted grosbeak, or a Baltimore oriole, or an indigo bunting. So just all kinds of neat birds that will live here at Wilkinson Park. The river behind me is very helpful. There's a lot of kingbirds right now flying around, and at least 3 or 4 different species of swallows that live here along the river and the banks, the limestone banks that are here in Sarasota County. So I want to tell you a little bit about the history of Wilkinson Park. Rufus and Edith Wilkinson spent their whole life in Rock Falls, Iowa. And Rock Falls, Iowa is one of those little tiny towns that never got to be more than 250 people living in the town. But Rufus was a successful businessman. He owned the lumber company here and had a lot of different hobbies. And one of them was raising Angus cattle. And he had farmland around Rock Falls, but in the 1940s he decided to sell some prime Iowa farmland for the riverbed area that's here along the town, because he wanted to be able to walk from Rock Falls to where his Angus cattle were and be able to take care of them. So that was in the 1940s. In 1965, the Wilkinsons donated this 80 acres to the town of Rock Falls, or actually they donated it to Sarasota County, and it was one of the first county parks here in Sarasota. Did you know, there's another fun fact, did you know that Iowa is the only state in the United States that has conservation boards in all of their counties? And that's pretty cool, how Iowa is into conservation, and that every single county has a conservation board. So anyways, back to my story. The Wilkinsons donated the 80 acres to to the Sarasota County, and so it's been a park ever since 1965. The Wilkinsons passed away shortly after that. The beginning of Wilkinson Park is actually the beginning access to the Sarasota County Greenbelt that runs past the Shell Rock River from Rock Falls all the way to North Springs, and that's 12 miles. And so that's another hidden gem that a lot of people in North Iowa don't even realize that it exists. It's a really neat trail that you can walk or bike between the two towns. So that's the history of Wilkinson Park. I always find it kind of interesting to know why something is named after somebody and what's the history there. And then actually, on all truthfulness, I really hope that someday there's going to be a Katie Byerly Prairie. All right, we're going to head home now, and I want to show you my little piece of land that I have set aside for prairie. I'm back home now, and I just wanted to show you part of my yard. I have part of my yard set off for some native prairie plants. I have some cup plant here and wild bergamot, and then also one plant or one flower that I haven't mentioned yet in this video, and that is milkweed. I have both common and swamp milkweed planted here in my yard. And we've all learned recently how important that milkweed is for the monarch butterfly, and so I'd like to take a little moment here to encourage you to think about joining the Monarch Mania. If you go to the Lime Creek Nature Center from Mason City, Iowa, if you go to their website, you can find information about Monarch Mania, and you can think about maybe setting aside a little part of your yard for native prairie flowers and for those butterflies that are coming through here soon. Doesn't have to be big, could just be a small section of your yard, could be at your school, could be at your church, but think about what you can do to promote planting of native wildflowers. I don't know if you can hear it, but there is a bird flying over me that is a nighthawk, and it's really cool to hear them coming through this time of year. I also want to share, I said it doesn't have to be big. Last year I planted swamp milkweed in a large pot on my deck, and that swamp milkweed got so large because it had no competition, and come late summer it was just covered with monarch butterfly caterpillars. So this is the Iowa Prairie Girl getting ready to celebrate National Prairie Day tomorrow. I sure hope that you and your loved ones can get out and enjoy the outside tomorrow. It's going to be a nice day. Get out and enjoy some wild places, whether it's the prairie or the woods or the lake, but get out there and explore and get your kids out there and show them the outdoors. And I hope that you have a happy National Prairie Day. It's the Iowa Prairie Girl coming to you from her home in Sarasota County.